Good morning everyone, and welcome to Live at the Waterhole. We have started here in Tembe Elephant Park with a lovely scene of some elephants. We've also got some zebra, which is lovely to see at Tembe, and I think some impala at the left hand side of the pan. My name is Kerry Dupree and I'm very excited to be joining you here live at the Waterhole today. Please don't forget, folks, this is a live and interactive experience, so please feel free to send through those questions and comments. It's always delightful to hear from you. I love the comments and questions that we get through. Sometimes are a little bit mind-boggling, but it is a very good way for us guides to keep our brains sharp. So we are very grateful for all your comments and questions that you send through. I want to say a big thank you to all of our viewers for always keeping us in tip-top shape with our knowledge, bush knowledge and information. Got our first comment from the day from Bantarat. Says happy thirsty Thursday, and indeed Bantarat, it is a thirsty Thursday. I wouldn't say these elephants look like they are very thirsty. They are just enjoying themselves in these little muddy wallow puddles here at the water's edge. But unusual for our zebra have been around the last couple of days, so very cool to see some nice clean shining white zebra at this scene here. They're very clean with all the rain that we have been having. Got another comment coming through from Josh Drawn. Says good morning everyone, thank you for joining us, Josh. Another exciting day, you never know what we are going to find out here. We've also got, I can see our woolly neck storks. There is a resident pair of woolly neck storks that normally reside at this waterhole. As you can see, our elephant bulls are very busy. Looks like we've got our biggest tusker for the day. Seems to be on the other side of this pan. It's close to that little white termite mound. These other bulls close to us are not as big. I wouldn't say their tusks are as long as some of these other massive elephant tuskers that we get here at Tembe Elephant Park. So it's amazing the genes and genetics that have been preserved in this area here in Tembe Elephant Park. There are some incredible elephant tuskers here within this region. Just looking out to see what else we can find out here today. Looks like a nice overcast day here in Tembe. Looks like there's not too much sun out and about, although the elephants are still having a great time cooling themselves down. More elephant bulls are arriving. Such a special place for these elephants to come here, spend time together. Maybe these solitary bulls, some of them might not interact with other elephants for quite some time if they're not in a bachelor group, so it's really important they get their social bonding in here during these mining times, or during the times when they're mining for minerals or splashing in the mud, having a drink. Tembe Elephant Park is home to the Big Five. Leopards are a little bit more difficult to see here in Tembe, I believe, but there are a few lions around. I have actually seen two lions at this waterhole before. Two lionesses came down for a drink, so always great to see some lionesses at the locations. But yeah, the reserve covers about 30,000 hectares, which is about 300,000 square kilometers of very famous white sand forests, as well as woodland, grassland, and a little bit of swamplands, which is perfect for the nyala. Oh wow, check this big boy. Isn't he impressive? So we were talking about dominance display yesterday amongst elephants, and how it's quite interesting how the bigger bulls will always as they arrive at a drinking spot or feeding area, the younger bulls will have to move off to give way for these bigger elephant bulls. So as well as I spoke about the elephants here in Tembe with very big tusks, so it is home to South Africa's largest population of indigenous elephants, or indigenous elephant populations, including some of the biggest elephants in South Africa, as well as in the Kruger. There's also some very impressive big elephant bulls over in the Kruger National Park. Oh, shame these elephants just frightened away our zebra that's got a little foal, as well as our family of Egyptian geese. We saw this family of Egyptian geese missioning down to the water yesterday. It was so delightful to see this little family of Egyptian geese very intently waddling down to the water. Look at these guys. It's so peaceful, these elephant bulls, as they come into these areas. Sometimes it can be a bit frantic. If it's dry season, they really do race down to the water. I love watching the tiny little baby elephants as they're running down to the water, sometimes trumpeting. Got a question from Ethan. Ethan is asking, how much can a full-grown African elephant bull weigh in the wild? So generally a big African elephant bull can weigh anything between about 5,000 to 6,000 kilograms, or that's 11,000 to 13,000 pounds. So yeah, these elephant bulls do become quite massive specimens. Alrighty folks, let's go and see what's happening over at Jamala at one of our other locations. Right, so we've just linked across to Jamala here, and looks like we have also got some more impala. Nice big elephant bull that is moving off into the distance. The habitat here looks very similar to the habitat over in Tau, so kind of very shrubby, short vegetation. Nice, seems to be quite dry open areas. See what else is out there. There seems to be some birds in the water. Could be a pair of Egyptian geese that are just roaming around in this waterhole. Also got some yellow, it's like some sort of yellow daisies. Could be the wild yellow daisies that we also have at Tau, so very similar habitats. You'd get similar plants and vegetation. It's not necessarily an edible. I don't think too many animals feed on those flowers. Alrighty folks, why don't we head across to Founders Lodge over in the Eastern Cape. Check what we have here. The rhinos have decided that they are having a rather thirsty Thursday indeed, and they have come down to the waterhole to have a bit of a wallow. So have a look. I do love it when we link to different locations. You get to see the different temperatures, different climates in different regions. So Tembe Elephant Park looked like a bit of a gloomy day, very similar to the weather here in Gauteng. I'm currently sitting in Johannesburg, and it looks it's cloudy weather here in Joburg. The sun is not quite shining, it's a bit behind the clouds. So very similar to the weather in Tembe, but here in the Eastern Cape of South Africa, it looks like there isn't a cloud in the sky, which is making for a very warm morning for these rhinos, I'm sure. So you see, rhinos will often come down to these water holes midday when it's very hot in order to cool themselves down in these little pans of water. Or, as this rhino on the left is doing, give themselves a nice scratch on some rocks that are nearby. Egyptian geese family are also out and about, so we were looking for them the other day. They were not at the watering hole, and I think they went off to have a little bit of a, I wouldn't say, feeding mission. They went off to feed on some grass or grass seeds, but they made their way back to the waterhole, so good to see them back here again. This area here, Founders Lodge, it's an amazing little spot in the Eastern Cape. It does offer a very peaceful bushveld and savanna experience. You're surrounded by these natural landscapes as well as an abundance of wildlife. As you can see with our white rhinos, we often have some blesbok coming down to this waterhole for a drink. We had a giraffe the other day, which was quite exciting to see giraffe coming down, and warthogs, don't forget about our little warthogs. And I had my first sighting the other day of a sable. We had some sable coming down to this waterhole to drink. Got a question here from Caleb, and Caleb is asking, is ivory poaching still a major threat to African elephants? So Caleb, yes, ivory poaching does remain quite a big threat to the African elephant species, even though in some regions it has decreased compared with the past. But your African bush elephants are not necessarily as endangered as species like your forest elephant, for example. So forest elephants are still very much sought after for their tusks, because their tusks are much softer than that of the African bush elephant, so it's easier to manipulate and work those tusks if they need to be modified in any way. So yeah, forest elephants unfortunately are still being very much targeted, whereas your African bush elephant, the populations are booming in quite a lot of countries in southern Africa. As for rhinos, I know rhinos' horns obviously are very much a target for poaching. So speaking of elephants, folks, let's head across to Moella in Botswana. See, maybe we have some elephants waiting for us. Wow, have a look at all these elephants, my goodness. Okay, I'm just gonna have a scan quickly and see if there are any young ones or any females. Otherwise, my first thought was, wow, look at all these elephant bulls all in the same spots. My goodness. Isn't this crazy? So it's awesome to see all these big elephant bulls coming into these same areas, especially during the rainy season like now. I guess with all the rains we've been having, it used to be quite a dry, barren area, has become quite a wet, marshy, a bit of a wet mosh pit. Elephants are really enjoying themselves in this mosh pit area here. Have a look, there's mud everywhere. Some of them are sinking in the vegetation. Must be a little bit of pools of water or slightly swampy underneath some of this vegetation, which is just great. Perfect for these elephants on a hot day in Botswana. So we're talking about poaching earlier, folks, and with regards to elephants and elephant ivory, we had some rhinos over at Founders. So with rhinos and rhino poaching, it seems that overall poaching of rhino and rhino horn has decreased or lowered in the last few years. So recent reports of rhino poaching in Africa have dropped since 2011, so largely due to strong anti-poaching measures as well as community collaboration. So it's always so good to have these anti-poaching units. They work so hard and tirelessly in order to protect our wildlife, but community and community engagement and community communication and outreach programs are so important to also help protect our wildlife. So global populations of rhinos unfortunately are still in decline, especially white rhino. But in South Africa, sort of in 2025, only around 100 rhinos were poached, which is not too bad. I mean, there's been some years, I know 2011 and 2012 were really bad in South Africa. Some years you've had more than 2 to 3 rhinos poached a day. So it is very good that this rhino poaching is on the decline in Africa, or especially in southern Africa. So very great, and big shout out to all of our rangers out there, all the anti-poaching units that stay out and help to protect our wildlife. Right, we've got some comments here. Wyatt is asking, could advanced IVF techniques save the northern white rhino from extinction? So Wyatt, I believe there has been a lot of studies that have been done on this IVF treatment, IVF implantation, should we say, for the northern white rhino, and maybe, who knows, in the next few years we might have a few more northern white rhino babies running around. So it's amazing technology, the things that technology can do, and with study and research. So fingers crossed, who knows what could happen in the next couple of years. Stuck in Bed has sent a comment through, says good morning Kerry, Mika and Jared from Insomniac 2 a.m. Goodness gracious, Stuck in Bed, I am so sorry it is so early in the morning, but I am glad that you are joining us. And yes, we do have some very happy wet elephants here. It is like an elephant paradise. There's food, there's water, and there's mud, all in the same place. Eric is asking quite a good question about elephants. Eric wants to know, do elephants get stuck in the mud often? So Eric, yes, elephants do quite often get stuck in the mud, especially small elephants. Often these little elephants don't quite know the depths of mud, or don't quite realize the danger of venturing into deep muddy puddles. They get carried away with their playtime and don't always pay attention to the sticky situations they get themselves into. Alrighty folks, why don't we head across to one of our other locations and see what's happening in the Serengeti Explorer. Look what we have here. We seem to be doing quite well today with our big five. We've already seen elephants at many of our locations. Apparently they're around today, and 2 big buffalo Gaga boys, and you can see where their name comes from. Look at all the mud on their backs there. Oh, shame. These old boys, the older they get, the more stiff and creaky they feel. No wonder they can be a little bit on the grumpy side. Most of the time I feel like buffalo can be misunderstood, but in general these buffalo bulls do have quite bad attitudes. And I don't blame them. I mean, look, once they have lived out their life in the herd, they then have to move off and live solitary lives by themselves or join other bulls, and they start aging. And then, you know, as with any creatures, once they start aging, they start feeling rather creaky and old. Their fur all falls out. They're not as handsome as they once used to be. They often have nasty injuries from fighting off predators and other bulls, so it's no wonder these buffalo bulls become rather grumpy. Darkmane Lover has sent through a comment. Apparently Darkmane Lover says, that's wonderful to hear, decreasing poaching. Great job to the anti-poaching teams and all other teams that protect any animals from poachers. Yes, Darkmane Lover, it's always a positive thing to know there's a decrease in poaching. Got another comment from Noah. Noah says, can Cape buffalo really outswim crocodiles across rivers? Noah, I would say crocodiles would probably very easily outswim a Cape buffalo. I mean, some of your big crocodiles, yes, could probably weigh over 120 to maybe 300, or 120 to maybe just under 200 kilograms, your average size crocodile. But a Cape buffalo, big Cape buffalo, I think one of the records in South Africa was just over 800 kilograms. So buffaloes are not the most graceful swimmers, but they are very strong. So a crocodile would most likely go for a young buffalo, but crocodile would have a very big mission to take down a large big buffalo bull like these guys. Although if it is a huge crocodile, I mean, one of the largest crocodiles recorded was 23 feet, and that was in Tanzania, I think in the early 1990s. So if you have a huge crocodile like that, then now you have a challenge. Then I think that crocodile might take a chance, and when he has a perfect opportunistic moment, buffaloes are coming down for a late afternoon drink, not paying as much attention as they should, then there is a chance that the buffaloes could be taken. Obviously, there's the wildebeest during the migration season. They also have to make sure they dodge the crocodiles in the river as well. Many wildebeest get taken out by the crocodiles, as well as zebra during the Great Migration. So Leela is asking, do Cape buffalo never forget threats and sometimes seek revenge? Leela, absolutely. These Cape buffalo are definitely a force not to be reckoned with. They are known as Black Death here in Africa, and they are responsible for a lot of deaths. Mostly, I would say, of hunters in Africa, but they do kill a lot of people in Africa, not just hunters, but also guides. And I have seen multiple videos. This is before AI and before you questioned everything you saw on the internet, but I have seen multiple videos of wounded buffalo literally charging through, stalking hunters and charging through a group of hunters to find the exact hunter at the back that shot them. So they are very intelligent, very cunning, and very aggressive creatures. You do not want to encounter these boys on foot by surprise on a hot day when they are not expecting visitors. That's why it's so important when you're out and about on a safari, especially on a walking safari, you need to be able to pay attention to what's happening around you and always be able to see creatures before they bump into you. Because if you see, for example, if we were walking in this area here in the Serengeti and you see these buffalo that are very calmly having a nice mud bath, you can crouch up behind a tree or in a shady spot and sit for hours watching them, which is perfectly fine as long as you're out of your comfort zone and you're in a safe place. But the minute you bump into them unexpectedly, things could turn pear-shaped rather quickly.
Hello, I'm James Hendry, and I'd like to take you on a very different kind of safari through the wild heart of Madagascar. In Undersea, we'll track the Indri's eerie call through misty rainforest. Then it's east on to Masuala, where lemurs leap through the jungle, coral reefs glow beneath the waves, and adventure waits around every bend. Come, let's explore it together.
The Wild Earth Impact Foundation is a non-profit that uses the power of wildlife storytelling as a force for good. We create sustainable development projects that showcase conservation stories, empower people, and inspire environmental action. As a registered South African PBO, you can make a tax-deductible donation to the Wild Earth Impact Foundation. To find out more, visit our website.
My full name is Mpho Muthusi Tikani. Best part of my job is coming to see nature. Worst part of my job is logging. That's the worst thing ever, because you have to log amount of footage. You sit in front of that computer and you think of deleting the footage, but no, they need the footage. If I went to Camel, probably a soccer player. I know some people don't believe me, but I'm very good, I'm very fast.
Look at this. Wow, that's amazing, everybody.
We'll see you there.
Oh, have a look at this. Wow, wow, wow.
I don't know where to look. This is too astounding for words.
This is unreal. This is what they call a shambi, a family, a whole herd of elephants.
Nature is just everything.
We will be extending the show by a few minutes.
A fascinating animal that kind of draws people to it.
We'll see you out on the safari.
So, yeah, generally, if zebra are sick, a very good indicator is, so the first thing that affects zebra when they're sick is the muscles in their neck start to become a bit lazy and their mane flops over. So his mane seems to be pretty upright, so if you want to see if a zebra is sick and if they have a floppy mane, that's generally a good indicator. So he doesn't look like he's sick. He's in pretty good condition, but I mean, Wangi National Park does have a very good population of lions, so he might have an injury of some sort. Maybe he got injured by some lions, or maybe he's just taking a bit of a nap, but a rest, midday rest. Although this is quite strange, peculiar. If a zebra spent too much time in this one spot by himself without any other zebra nearby, I think you would suspect could be something wrong. So keep an eye out on this guy and see what happens. Again, stallions do also get into fights, so if he had any open gaping wounds, I would suspect either one, he could have been possibly almost a meal to a lion, or he could have been in a fight with another male zebra. Zebras are incredibly fierce as well, and they engage in quite intense fights. So Mia is asking a good question. Mia asks, how do zebra often survive deep lion claw wounds? Right, Mia, I'll get to your question in a minute. In the meantime, let's head over to Jack's Pan and see what else is happening. Oh, hello, what do we have here? So we have Jack's Pan over in Botswana, and we have our little black wing stilt that is still sitting on its nest, and I'm so delighted that it chose to make its nest right in front of the camera here. So black wing stilts are migratory birds. You get many black stilt families across Africa. I believe in America one of the common stilt birds, or one of the common stilts in America, is the black-necked stilt, which is very similar to this black-winged stilt. Sorry folks, our camera is just giving a bit of trouble there, so we'll be back in a moment. I'm just catching up on some questions. So Mia, zebra have an incredible, wild animals are incredible at how they can recover, even like with these buffalo, for example. I've seen buffalo with terrible injuries from lions. We are back here at Jack's camp with our little black-winged stilt. We have another comment from Stan, and Stan says, apparently you saw a video of a stallion killing foals during a takeover. It was horrible. Yes, Stan, I do love zebra. It is one of my favorite of all animals, but stallions can be horribly nasty. When growing up, we had a family of zebra that always lived close by to our house. They were always around, and there was multiple times that through the night we heard lots of calling. Oh, okay folks, so early in the week, it's interesting, when we linked across here, the stilt only had 2 eggs, but now apparently we've just heard from our Zumi that this black-winged stilt does now have 3 eggs, which is quite cool, because I think I was reading early in the week that these black-winged stilts normally have between 2 to 4 eggs at a time. So I thought maybe there had already been some eggs stolen, but apparently this female might not be finished laying her eggs yet. These black-winged stilts, the male and female, will both take turns while incubating their eggs, and as you can see, they will make their nests in little marshy, muddy areas. Have a look. All of this debris and vegetation around is all like old reeds that they use to make a very shallow nest on the mud with a little scraping or a little depression in the center. So quite well camouflaged. I'm not sure if stilts do the same thing, but I know with like grebes, crakes and coots, if they're not on the nest, what they'll do is they'll actually cover the eggs with some vegetation from the sides of the nest to camouflage the eggs if they move off the nest for any period of time. So Bush Bookie is asking a question about our zebra. Bush Bookie says, good morning, Kerry. Quick question. Do zebra get colic in the same way as horses? I've known many horses and even mules to have colic, but I have no idea about zebra. So Bush Bookie, luckily I do know quite a lot about horses and zebra. And yes, zebra do get colic. I wouldn't say it's as bad or as often as horses. I mean, horses, we've domesticated these animals, and in doing so, we've kind of weakened their immune systems. Wild animals are a lot more adaptable and they can survive in natural environments. I mean, for example, I think thoroughbreds, if they look at sand, they get colic. But zebra, for example, they might get colic if they've eaten something bad, or maybe in the dry season if they really do consume a lot of sand, because there's not much grass. But it does take a lot to make a zebra get colic, and it's not as common as in horses. So Ilsa's asking a question about our black-winged stilt. Look at this female. She's looking up into the sky, looking out for any predators. Alright folks, sorry, we've had to link away from our little black-winged stilt. The feed was a little bit unstable there, but we're here in Botswana at Twin Pans in Selinda Reserve with a huge herd of hippo and lots of elephant grazing, browsing in the distance, and it looks like an elephant breeding herd. I can see some little ones. Oh, look at this. Isn't this a lovely scene? Just missing a palm tree. I'd love to see a palm tree right now. Getting back to our black-winged stilt questions, Ilse was asking about the distraction display. So yes, Ilse, with black-winged stilts, the parents will sometimes use a distraction display to lure predators away from the nest. Lucas is also asking a question about our black-winged stilts. Do they sometimes nest on floating vegetation? So Lucas, that's actually my first black-winged stilt nest, but all the pictures that I have seen and literature that I have read about black-winged stilts, they always kind of nest on a muddy bank or at the edge of the water in a muddy area that's difficult to access for predators. Ava is also asking a question about our stilts. Can black-winged stilts swim if water gets too deep for wading? Black-winged stilts, I don't think they can actually swim too well. Ava, if you have a look at the foot structure of some birds, it will give you a lot of idea of the movements that they'll use. And black-winged stilts don't have webbed feet, so they're mostly waders. They'll wade through shallow waters. I don't think that, or fly. They'll fly across the water or wade. I don't necessarily think they are able to swim because they don't have webbed feet. Lots of hippo activity here in Selinda. Saw a herd of impala. There's a few impala just off to the left, moving away, and these look like mopani trees. Wow, check at these mopani trees, folks. It is not very often that you see huge mopani trees like this. There's a lot of very special places in Botswana, here in Selinda, parts of the Okavango Delta, Moremi, that have incredible mopani tree forests, which unfortunately, because of a little bit of action with these hippos, a little bit of family politics going on with these hippos here. Generally, a pod of hippos will consist of mostly females and one male. Alrighty folks, speaking of hippos, seems like we've got a hippo out of the water somewhere in the Masai Mara. Let's go check that out. Oh wow, have a look at this folks, we've got a hippo out of the water. Isn't this unusual? Very strange to see a hippo out of the water. I think it's a female. I wouldn't say it looks like it's a very old individual. So the females have much smaller heads than that of the males. But for a female hippo, she does look like she's been in the wars quite a bit. Have a look at those very nasty scratches and scrapes on her back there. Yeah, she's not a very big individual. You can see by the size of her head. I feel like all hippos' bodies are rounded. So the only way to really get a good idea of age, size, or sex is by looking at their heads. And we were talking about earlier zebra and how ferocious they can fight and engage in, males sometimes even kill females or mares because of fighting, and also trying to kill the youngsters of any males that might have been in the area. Same with hippos, you can see they engage in some horrible fights sometimes, hippos. But it's amazing how these wild animals have such incredibly strong immune systems, and they're able to recover from these injuries that might seem fatal. Yes, with hippos, I do think hippos' wounds take a bit longer to heal than that of most animals, but I mean that's because hippos spend so much of their time in the water, and we all know any injury that is wet and moist all the time takes quite a long time to heal. Ethan is asking a cool question about hippos. Ethan wants to know, how far can hippos wander from the water while feeding on grass? So Ethan, this is very special to see a hippo during the day munching away, because normally they come out at night, and this hippo seems to be very, very hungry. But hippos can walk even up to 30 to 40 kilometers at night while looking for food. I mean, in the dry season, they don't always have the luxury of having food available close by, so they will have to walk quite far to find their food. This is not something you see every day, so close up, so very grateful to be watching this. Oh, looks like that hippo has been munching a bit much over the holiday season. He's got a little bit of a chin pouch there, like a little squirrel chin pouch, a second chin. So Finn is asking, do hippos follow the same paths every night when going to graze? So Finn, generally yes, hippo will have similar paths that they'll use in and out of a water source. So it's always advisable that you never camp on a hippo path or in between a hippo path grazing, like where hippos could be moving to graze, and the water, because hippos generally are quite shy out of the water. They'll run straight back to their water source if they feel threatened, but if you are in the way, then that's another story. You might get trampled by a very grumpy hippopotamus. Oh, check how wrinkly this hippo's feet are. So it's quite unusual to see a hippo out of the water on a sunny day like this. I know in winter, obviously in winter when it's cool days, there's not too much sun out, you will find hippos out and about grazing. Very unusual looking creatures, these hippos, aren't they? These little Shrek-like ears. But I would guess the water is probably not too far away. So often in the early hours of the morning, that's when you can find hippos still making their way back from their grazing area into the water. And generally, an average hippo, an adult male, can weigh anything between about 1,500 to 1,800 kilograms. This is quite a small female. So I would guess she probably weighs around 1,000 kilograms. But yeah, the females can weigh about 1,000 to 1,500 kilograms, which is 2,000 pounds to 3,000 pounds. Your average female hippo. How fascinating. So hippos actually have very rubbery bottom jaws, and that is what helps them to cut off the grass while feeding. Oh. This hippo is on such a mission. They're primarily herbivores, so hippos mostly will feed on grass. Alrighty folks, why don't we head across to Menoakwena in Botswana and see what else is out there. Looks like we've got a bachelor ball, little meeting and greeting ceremony here. There's a bit of boisterous behavior going on at this little watering spot. Again, another great place for all these big bachelor bulls to come and meet up, and they'll always seek the cleanest water. So this is probably where the outlet is for the water that is coming straight from the borehole. A perfect little spot for these elephants to drink some nice clean fresh water, so they'll often fight over accessibility to this clean water. Got a question here from Miss T. Miss T is asking, nice views in the morning. Hippo's skin, is it soft or hard as they are staying inside water most of the time? So Miss T, hippos do have very thick skin. It can be anything between about 4 to 5 centimeters or about 2 inches on their back. So that's where they need to have the thickest amount of skin, and that's to protect themselves from injuries or from fighting. So it acts as a bit of an armor or an armor protection layer against predators, against being bitten, scratches. So despite this thickness, it is very sensitive. Their skin does dry out and cracks if they stay out of the water too long. But as you can see on that hippo on his back there, it does look quite shiny. So I guess it would kind of be like smooth on the outside, yes, although it is very thick, and they have a very thick fat layer as well underneath their skin, and that also helps to insulate their body temperature to keep them warm when they're in the water for long periods of time, but also to protect them from any injury as well. Well, hippos also do have this unusual reddish oily secretion known as blood sweat or hippo sweat. And it acts as, it's almost like they make their own sunblock. It's a bit of a sunblock protective layer, antibacterial to help with their injuries and their scratches, and it also does act as a moisturizer to help and keep their skin dry. So their skin is hairless and smooth, But they do have tiny little hairs, especially on their faces, around. They have little whiskers almost around their, on their little chinny chin and on the top of their mouth, and then tiny little micro hairs inside their ears to prevent any little insects from creeping into their ears. Very similar with elephants. So elephants, if you have a look on their ear canal there, where the actual hole is for their ear, there's tiny little hairs, and that's to prevent any foreign objects or insects from entering their ear hole. Got a question here from Zoe, and Zoe's asking, how often do elephants need to drink in hot African climate? So Zoe, elephants will often need to drink at least 70 to 200 liters of water a day in very hot climates or conditions, which is around 50 gallons of water. So some large elephant bulls may drink even if they're extremely hot or inactive. It's a good way of cooling them down, and generally big elephants like this need to drink at least twice a day. But they can survive several days without water if food does contain a lot of moisture and nutrients. For example, if they're feeding on a lot of moisture-rich grass and fruit, like in the rainy season, they might not need to drink as much. But big elephant herds that have lots of little ones do need to drink a lot more often. So if they don't drink, elephant bulls, they can maybe go with drinking just once a day or once every second day if they have a lot of moisture in their food. But female breeding herds, if they have little ones, females will be lactating, they need a lot of liquids, same as their little ones, in order that they don't dehydrate in this hot African sun. So Ava, yes, you are correct. Ava's commenting, can elephants dig deeper wells in dry riverbeds for better drinking water? Alright folks, why don't we head across to Stony Point and see what else is happening in Cape Town. Oh, have a look what we have here, folks. We have a little hyrax, or a rock dussie, hiding in this little rocky crevice. Aren't these things so cute? I do love rock dussies. Look how fluffy and furry they are. You can also see those very noded or noduled little toes of theirs, special adaptation that they have in order to be such agile little rock jumpers. I am actually going to be heading off to the Congo at the end of the month, and I will be looking out for some tree hyraxes. So in West Africa you don't get the rock hyrax, you get the tree hyraxes, two different species of tree hyrax. We do actually have a species of tree hyrax here in South Africa. I think it is known as the southern tree hyrax. Alright.
Step into the exciting world of the original science. Next September, Master Tracker Renus Mhlongo and Wild Earth's Steve Falconbridge lead a spectacular safari through the Kruger, where you'll learn to identify tracks and then trail iconic big game on foot. Days are spent immersed in the field, evenings around the fire sharing stories, from the hair-raising to the hilarious. This is the ultimate wild immersion for the nature connoisseur.
everybody.
We'll see you there.
Oh, have a look at this. Wow, wow, wow.
I don't know where to look. It's too astounding for words.
Unreal. This is what they call a shambi, a family, a whole herd of elephants.
Nature is just everything.
We will be extending the show by a few minutes.
A fascinating animal that kind of draws people to it.
We'll see you out on the safari.
Have a look at the feet. We were talking about their feet earlier and that their legs are not exactly designed for swimming. They're designed to have very long wading legs for walking in shallow waters. Look at this beautiful bird. Isn't this so cool to be able to watch this bird on its nest? I mean, if you were sitting anywhere close to this nest, this bird probably would be frightened away and not want to come back, which you'd never want to disturb a nesting bird. And if you were to sit at a distance that this bird would be comfortable, there's no way you'd be able to get a nice close-up shot like this. So Grace is asking about... Alrighty folks, let's head across to Naledi and see what else is happening out there today. Oh, it is lovely to see Naledi. We have not been here in the Kruger for quite some time. I haven't seen this location since the rain started, so it's lovely to see so much greenery. I know normally this location can be quite a barren and dry looking little spot. In dry season there's not much to look at, everything is very dry, so it looks like they've had some incredible rainfalls in this area as well. Always a very good sign. Got 3 possibly bachelor bulls, elephant bulls, roaming through this area. Perfect hornbill territory. I can see lots of knob thorn trees around here. Alrighty folks, as our elephants move off, let's head across to Lentor and see what's happening over in Lentor. Have a look what we have here folks. So of course Lentor is an incredible little spot for birding. This looks like it could be one of the the African firefinch. Let's have a look. He's got a little red bill. Okay, African firefinch has a more of a bluish bill, so this is the red-billed firefinch possibly. Females are normally a little bit of a drabber color, brown with a slight hint of red above the eyebrow and a little patch of red just above the tail. So yeah, the difference between the red-billed firefinch and the African firefinch. The African firefinch looks a little bit bigger and its bill has more of a whitish blue tinge to it, and of course the male has a few little white spots on the side of the wing, just below the wing there. So quite a few firefinch species that do come down to this particular spot. Perfect little bird bath area, nice and quiet, especially on a midday like this. Not too many other predators around. Looks like we've got a sparrow of some sort here. Could be the bush sparrow. Oh yeah. Oh no. It just looks like one of the sparrows. Which sparrow could this be? Could be the northern sparrow. There's a very special sparrow in Kenya called the Kenya sparrow. It's also pretty cool. It's a northern grey-headed sparrow, I'm going to guess. He had a little bit of a rufous colour on his wings and more of a dull light brown underbelly. So this is the female of the red-billed firefinch. We saw a cutthroat finch the other day, which was very exciting. Always very cool to see these interesting little birds that come down to Lintore. So Paul is asking, do people keep firefinches as pets? Paul, I think, oh, what do we have here? It looks like it could be an indigo bird in the distance there. So Paul, I don't know. Yes, sorry. There are some people that do keep finches as pets. I have seen quite a few different finch species being kept as pets. But I don't think it's necessary to keep firefinches as pets because they're normally very prominent garden birds anyway. So you do find them coming down to your garden. So if you just put down some water for them, you don't even need to put down food for firefinches. And then they'll all of a sudden come down to your garden. But we do have an epic little bird here, folks. Looks like it could be a village indigo bird. Have a look at that little guy. I'm guessing it's a village indigo bird. Yup, he's got pink little feet and a white little bill. Check out this little guy, isn't he so pretty? So he looks like he mostly just has black feathers, but in the light you can see they shine. He's got a very beautiful, almost like a starling sheen that goes on, and these males are quite territorial during the breeding season. Alright folks, well, while our birds have flown off, why don't we fly on over to Tembe. Oh my goodness, look at all these elephant balls, my gosh. Seems like maybe the temperature has started to climb, and so have all the elephants decided to come and climb into these little muddy puddles and cool themselves down. What an awesome view this is. Wow, looks like we've got a grey heron that's flying off in the distance there. Look at these elephants. There's a very big elephant tusker on the left, and another very big guy off on the right. There was one big male we saw here yesterday that I do recognize. He's been around. He's got very long tusks, but his tusks kind of, the one tusk I think on the left hand side curves around quite a bit in front of him, so he does have a little bit of a trouble maneuvering his trunk around his tusks there. It's incredible how these elephants get such massive tusks. So the tusks of elephants never stop growing. I feel like, especially in males. So females' tusks, you do get female elephant tuskers. It's not as common as in the males, but their tusks never stop growing throughout their life. They just continue to grow, and that's how incredible elephants like Craig have able to grow these massively long tusks. And I mean, here in Tembe Elephant Park, they are very well protected, so they're able to live in an area where they don't have to worry, and they can grow to extremely large sizes. So lovely watching these elephant balls, so peaceful. So another very special species that occurs here in Tembe Elephant Park, quite a unique species, is the Sunni antelope. Sunni is one of Africa's smallest and shyest antelope species, so very cool. It'd be awesome to see a Sunni. I didn't know they got Sunni in Tembe. So next time I visit, I'll definitely have to look out for a little Sunni. And the bird populations in Tembe, it's a great place for bird watching. They have quite an impressive 340 recorded bird species. Could be plus or minus, but yeah, that's the birds that have been recorded in this area. So it's a very beautiful place to go and visit, not just for the big five, but for your little Sunni, one of Africa's smallest antelopes, the birds, of course the landscapes. It has some beautiful landscapes that you can see, and the park is co-managed by the Tembe community as well as Izimvelo, so KZN Wildlife. Make it a strong example of community-based conservation programs that work hand in hand successfully to protect these parks and wildlife. What's happening with these balls? I feel like there's a bit of jousting going on. So Jerome is asking a good question about elephant tuskers. So Jerome is asking, will they move tuskers around to spread their genes? Jerome, my theory of conservation initiatives like that is, I feel like it's always best to leave nature to be as natural as possible. When you start moving elephants around or moving animals around, it's always a big risk on the individual. I mean, especially these big elephant tusker bulls. I mean, I know some of the big elephants like Tim and Craig, obviously they were darted on a few occasions when they had snares or needed to have collars put on, for example. But in most cases, they'll be darted. They'll go down in the exact place they've been darted. The vet team will come in. They'll be as quick as possible in helping, treating or collaring that individual as possible. Then they give the animal a reversal drug, which then helps the animal to wake up quicker. The team extracts from the area and then the elephant gets up and moves off. But when you start darting these huge tuskers, and then now if you're going to move an elephant, they'll normally move them on cranes, so they lift them up. It's actually quite an interesting operation to watch. My father's was a wildlife vet, so we got to help with a lot of relocations of animals, and we did quite a few big elephant bulls. We'd move them out of our property in Victoria Falls on the private reserve we lived on. Of course they would break back into the reserve the next week, but we just had too many bulls. So we dart those elephants, and then they actually tie the legs, and then they hoist up the front legs, and the back legs will then be attached to a rope pulley system that then lifts the elephant up. They very carefully and gently then lower it onto the crane and tilt the elephant onto their side and strap the elephant down. Now, can you imagine trying to travel with an elephant like that in South Africa on a highway? I mean, yeah, that would be quite an interesting... I think if I saw that, I would be quite surprised, because I mean the elephant hangs off on both sides of these load beds, and those were not even big elephant bulls. So now you've got legs and trunks hanging off the side of the load bed. You've got a team on the load bed trying to make sure that the trunk is open, that the breathing is stable. I think it wouldn't be advisable to, I mean, some game you can move them in crates, like a lot of antelope, rhinos, cats, predators can be moved in crates. But if you were to have an elephant in a crate on the back of a vehicle, I think that would definitely cause quite havoc once that elephant wakes up. So I would say that it's always best to leave nature as be, but where it is very good in some instances is when they've preserved the DNA of some of these big elephant tusker bulls. That is a very good way of preserving those genes and those genetics for if you ever did need to start a breeding program possibly and reintroduce these individuals. I mean, I know in some cases there have been big operations to move elephants from one reserve to the next by herding them with vehicles or helicopters. That's a a more safer way to move elephants. But again, all of these things do put a lot of stress and pressure on these animals. And at the end of the day, we always need to keep the animal's best interests first. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Alright, folks, let's head across to Tau and see what else is happening out there. So yesterday, folks, we had an incredible day here at Tau. We got, I think, yes, we broke our record yesterday for the most animals at one watering hole. So it's, for me, it's Oldonyo has always had been the location that on a few occasions I've had 7 different species at the same waterhole. But here, yesterday at Tau, we had 8 different species here altogether. We had waterbuck, impala, we had red hartebeest, which was my first time seeing them at Tau. We had kudu, we had baboons, we had, what else did we have? We had zebra, wildebeest. It was absolutely incredible, very special. Yesterday, lots of animal movement here at Tau. So Lady Macbeth is asking a very good question. So Lady Macbeth says, I thought elephants on their sides collapsed their lungs. And Lady Macbeth also says good morning to everyone. So yes, Lady Macbeth, another reason why moving elephants on a low bed truck is not advisable, because again, the area that we were in, that we were moving these elephants, it was less than about 30 minutes drive that we would move these elephants from one side of the fence to the other side of the fence. Because if elephants lie on their side, especially these big bulls, the bigger they are, the less they are able to lie on one side. That's why elephants don't often sleep for very long periods of time. So that's another good reason that Lady Macbeth has just raised there, is that there's no way you would be able to leave an elephant on the back of a vehicle lying on its side for more than 40 minutes. Otherwise, it would start to be difficult for that elephant to breathe. So these are probably just a few of the reasons why we can't move elephants around. Animals that weigh 6,000 to 8,000 kilograms, makes it quite difficult to move around with these individuals. Got a nice breeding herd of waterbuck here and some impala. So there's often a very big bachelor herd of impala that lives in this area. Also had a little white-faced whistling duck that just flew out of screen. Isn't that beautiful? What a lovely scene. Looking to see, I'm not seeing any wildebeest today, or normally we've got wildebeest around. We had lots of zebra yesterday. Not seeing a male waterbuck. Normally there's always a male waterbuck around as well. Looking for crocodile. I feel like there might be a crocodile lying in the reeds or on this bank just at the bottom of the screen here. I'm not too sure. It could just be some vegetation, but there looks like something suspicious and either crocodile-y or very loggy. So Lucas, very good question. Lucas is asking where waterbuck survive the most. So Lucas, waterbuck are always associated with water, floodplains, marshy areas. They don't necessarily spend too much time in drier woodland areas. So mostly waterbuck always like to be close to the water, close to these very thick, dense areas, lots of vegetation, so there's lots of food for them and also for their young. So we've been chatting a lot this week about like antelope and why some female antelope don't have horns. And I've kind of seen a bit of a pattern that most female antelope that occur in open grassland areas, that there's no protection for their young, they will have horns, both males and female. And that's so that the females can protect their young. Whereas antelope that are mostly woodland concentrated or have woodland habitats like waterbuck, like your bushbuck, so most of those little antelope, reedbuck as well, that hang out in these thick areas will use the thick dense vegetation to hide their young in case of danger. So if you took a waterbuck out of its habitat, that means their little ones would probably be taken off quite quickly and they would have nowhere to hide. What are they looking at? These waterbuck are very curious about something. Maybe there's a crocodile in the water. They are very skeptical about something. I think there's a crocodile in the water here. So with all the floods that we've been having, or extreme rain, and I believe there's more rainfall that is approaching for the next couple of days across Zimbabwe, South Africa, Zambia and into Mozambique, it has filled up all these water sources. So a few months ago the crocodiles were not very successful in their hunting endeavors, because if water is too shallow for crocodiles to pull their prey under the water, then it makes it very difficult for them to suffocate their prey under the water or drown their prey under the water. Whereas now these pans have filled up quite a bit, so it might make it a little bit easier for the crocodiles to hunt. And I've seen on a few occasions the crocodiles here, they have taken some young waterbuck. Alrighty folks, why don't we head across to one of our locations we haven't visited this afternoon yet and see what's happening at Victoria Falls. Oh, have a look what we have here. Some white-backed vultures that have all collected on the top of this. It looks like a jackleberry tree. Oh my goodness, jackleberry tree have the most amazing fruit. I want to say jackleberry tree, but it could also be, nope, it looks like an African star chestnut. Wow, they look very different when they have leaves on. The African star chestnut tree, they have these, I think it is almost like a palmate leaf structure. Very big palm shaped leaves, and they have this very big round, almost hazelnut colored shell that has their seeds inside, and they pop open and they look like these perfect little bowls almost. But do not be fooled, because when I was a kid I used to go and pick them up and you get covered in little hairs in your fingers. So they're quite fierce little little shells that they have their seeds inside, and it's a perfect tree for these vultures to rest up on. So Sam is asking a question, why are there 3 collective nouns for vultures? So Sam, I actually just learnt from my uncle recently, but that is very debatable, and I'm now very confused about collective nouns, and yeah, kind of like your plural, singular and plural abbreviations for collections of animals. So my uncle, he's an incredible birder. He's actually in Victoria Falls, and he said that all animals are just, it's vulture, it's mongoose, it's lion, it's insect. It's all singular. There are no plural nouns for collections of animals. But then when I googled and ChatGPT'd, it seems like some specific species do have a plural name for specific groups of animals. So yeah, I'm a little bit confused on that one, so I'll have to do some further research. I think dictionaries are better for things like that. Alrighty folks, let's head across to Botswana and see what's happening just across the border of Zimbabwe. Oh wow, careful. You got two little baby elephants and they're crossing this giant swampy area. It's just too cute. You'll see often the baby elephants, I see them grabbing onto their mother's tails so that they don't get lost in these swampy, marshy areas. Oh! Almost lost this little guy. So a nice big breeding herd. They're all moving in single file across this swampy area. It looks very delta-y, very marshy. Oh, look at these little elephants. But Gabby has sent through a comment, just like Dumbo. How sweet. Yes, Gabby, so cute. Look at those floppy little ears. And then as soon as they come out of the swampy area, they're now looking for some of that typical white Botswana soil to coat themselves with, to dry with. Look at them coating themselves with sand. It's like an elephant sand bathing party. So elephants will quite often sand bath, especially if they've just been in the water. So especially if it's a hot day, perfect to coat themselves with some sand to protect their skin from any sun. Isn't this just lovely to watch these elephants? It's awesome to watch those little ones crossing the swampy marsh areas. So I was having a look to see what has been happening on the live drives, and it seems like lions are the flavor of the day lately. There's been lions everywhere, over in Kenya at both locations, even in Amakala, just lions all over the place. So great to see there's lots of lion activity, even in this rainy season. And I've seen that we have got some awesome sightings. David had an awesome sighting of a leopard that might have had a mongoose kill in its mouth. So awesome to see some leopards there, a leopard at Governor's. I know it's not a very rare, it's quite a rare sighting to see leopards over in Governor's, so always very exciting to have those kind of interactions. So well done to David, getting some lion and leopard action. And I see Dominic is with Mpo over in Nkewa. So I hope that Mpo has a great time at Nkewa. And I saw that Dominic there had the new pride of lions or lionesses that came into the area. Sopas, I don't believe it was the Sopas lionesses, but yeah, there were 5 other lionesses that moved into the area. So great to see some new lionesses. Yeah, lots of lion activity. The Salus pride of lionesses that came into the Nkewa area with Dominic and then Paul. So yeah, I hope that they both have a great time exploring and that there's lots of activity this rainy season at all of our locations. So Frida's asking a question, will parents throw dust on newborns? Frida, I've never seen a female elephant throwing dust on a newborn, but little elephants are quite curious little creatures. So what they might do quite often is they'll watch their mother and might mimic what she's doing, or if they can't throw dust on themselves because their trunks are still, I mean, it takes a few months for elephants to develop all the muscles in their trunks so that they are able to feed and use their trunk as a little tool, and in the meantime they might just go down into the dust and roll. I've seen little baby elephants kind of struggling to use their trunks, and then they just flopped over into the dust and rolled over in the dust. It was too cute to watch. This elephant cow looks like she's got a little bit of vegetation that she's carrying with her, maybe take away for later. Alrighty folks, seems like elephants are the flavour of our day today, so let's head across to Naledi and see what those elephants are up to.
Oh, yes, there's a leopard. I've got a leopard here. My name is Cedric, and behind the camera with me we've got Muscles and Paul. Well, it is Feline Friday.
At Wild Earth, we believe every story has the power to create change. That's why we've launched the Wild Earth Impact Foundation, a non-profit dedicated to conservation and social impact. By showcasing conservation stories, we can change lives, protect nature, and empower communities. We have partnered with Empowers Africa to accept tax-deductible donations from US donors. Your donation will help fund critical programs that support our mission. Join us and be part of the change.
My full name is Maxine Gaines. Most people that know me really well call me Max. I'm a mum. I have two boys. One is 16 years old and one is 14 years old. I'm a very, very proud mama of my two boys. I've just always been passionate about leopards. I'm passionate about their conservation. I'm just passionate about everything to do with leopards. I love them.
Look at this. Wow, that's amazing, everybody.
We'll see you there.
Oh, have a look at this. Wow, wow, wow.
I don't know where to look. It's too astounding for words.
This is unreal. This is what they call a shambi, a family, a whole herd of elephants.
Nature is just everything.
We will be extending the show by a few minutes.
A fascinating animal that kind of draws people to it.
We'll see you out on the safari.
Very calm, so they'll be in a very restful state right now, just resting in the shade of the tree, maybe have a little cat nap. I've got a question here from Dennis. Dennis is asking, are there any other animals that flap their ears to cool down? So Dennis, apparently there's a desert rabbit that is almost like a jackrabbit that have rather large ears, and they do use these ears to radiate heat, so the blood flows through their ears, and they'll often flap or move their ears around quite a lot to help cool themselves down. So this is also common in hares, especially your desert hares, because of the very hot temperatures that they have to survive in. There's also a fennec fox, so the tiny desert foxes of the Sahara, they do also have oversized ears that help to dissipate heat in hot desert climates. I would wonder if the bat-eared fox also uses the same method in order to cool themselves down, because bat-eared foxes do also have very large ears. Just so calm watching these elephant bulls. See a bit of sun coming through the clouds there. It's so special this time that these elephant bulls spend together. This young bull will be learning from these two older bulls a lot of life lessons. It's lovely when you're in a vehicle just parked quietly next to these elephants that are just resting under the trees. You can just hear the sound. I mean, it looks quite windy, so you can hear the sound of the vegetation moving, a bit of a breeze through this area. You can hear the rumbling of the elephant's stomach sometimes. You can hear their trunks or their ears flopping on their bodies or moving around. Maybe a little bit of a blowing sound every now and then when they're blowing out air from their trunks. Very peaceful. So Caleb, very good question. Caleb is asking, do older bulls in musk leave stronger scent marks to warn rivals? So yes, Caleb, these older bulls, they have very strong scent that they'll leave behind. So that, of course, they'll be excreting a liquid from their temporal glands, but also they have this liquid that is excreted from their penile sheath. They actually get what's known as green penis syndrome, and that's because of all this liquid that's being excreted onto their back legs as well, and it is a very pungent smell, and the smell will be left behind once they move through specific areas. So you can still smell them for sometimes even up to 30-40 minutes after they've moved through an area. You can still smell this very strong urine smell of these elephant bulls that are in musk. It's kind of a good warning system for us humans as well. Stay away or be careful. Be very wary not to bump into these grumpy elephant bulls. I mean, when they're still younger, it's difficult for these elephant bulls to regulate their hormones. But the older they get, the calmer they generally are, and the more they're kind of more used to regulating these hormones, and they're not so temperamental. Whereas the young bulls, when they first start going into musk, they don't really know what to do with themselves. But either way, even if it's an older elephant bull, you always need to be very cautious of these elephant bulls when out and about in the bush, even if you are in a vehicle. Yeah, they can be quite unpredictable. So Noah, yes, you are correct. Noah was asking, do older elephants develop thicker, more wrinkled skin over the years? And yes, Noah, I have seen some very old elephants. There is a very big old elephant over at Lentore that sometimes comes down to the waterhole. That's got very, very wrinkled skin. Alright folks, well, we've got some elephant activity over in Botswana, so let's head across there and see what those elephants are up to. Oh wow, got some elephant fighting here. We're just talking about elephants and how elephants' bulls go into musk, and especially these younger bulls, they spend a lot of time fighting and playing with one another, which is very important for their cognitive development, so that one day when they are big elephants, they will know exactly how to fight off their opponents. So this play fighting is very important in these young elephants, but these are still younger bulls. This is nothing serious, it's more just boisterous boys being boys. They obviously had a swim, got a second wave of energy for their morning, kind of just like when you have a very strong cup of coffee and you all of a sudden feel like you can conquer the world. Then these elephants start fighting with one another, thinking they are bigger than what they actually are. Maybe they'll come back and have a swim again, although I think they're pretty much done with the water. But it's quite entertaining watching these two elephant boys challenging each other. It seems like there might have been a victor, although I would have assumed that the larger elephant bull with the longer tusks would have probably been the one to have won this little disagreement between these two boys, or this little fight that they had. Oh, there we go. They can be very playful elephants. Such intelligent creatures. This is such a lovely scene. I love watching elephants in the water, especially fighting elephant bulls in the water. Look at these two boys going at each other. So mounting in bulls is often a form of dominance. So it's a very good way for these elephant bulls to belittle one another, or show who's the more dominant individual. So I've got a question here from Eagle Lovers asking, hi Kerry, what is the survival rate of albino elephant calves? So generally the survival rate of these albino elephant calves is very low, and that's because they're very sensitive to the sun. They're a very high risk to predators because they're spotted a lot quicker. They do also have health vulnerabilities, so albinism can be linked to weaker immune system or vision problems, making elephants more prone to diseases. So it is very rare to have these albino elephants, although I have seen lots of forest elephants with a slight pink tinge to their skin. Alright folks, let's head back across to Lentor for some more birding. Oh, looks like we've still got our little firefinches here at Lentor, our red-billed firefinch, the male and female. So it seems to only be a pair, which is quite unusual. But normally these firefinches will occur in little family groups. We had a village weaver here. It was a village indigo bird here earlier. So that was quite exciting to see a village indigo bird. We have some questions about our elephant bulls. Oliver was asking, do lone bulls spar with younger ones to stay in practice? So Oliver, generally the older bulls are already quite well developed in their skills of battling and fighting it out. But it's always great, this interaction time between these bulls, to keep them in good practice. Yes, I will agree with that. But the younger bulls, it's also just a playful. They're just very playful, especially in their younger years. Harper is also asking, why do younger bulls often back down quickly when sparring older bulls? So Harper, it's like if you were to step into the ring with Mike Tyson and you see his size and you take the first punch and you realize this is not happening, I'm going to be killed by this guy. You realize I need to get out of here right now. It's the same thing with elephants. When they realize they've taken on too much that they can handle, then they very quickly retreat. So it's a sign of submission that they are kind of backing out of this fight. I'm not going to do this anymore. This is too much. This guy's going to squash me. I'm out of here. But again, it is very important for these young elephant bulls. They need to have this fighting, sparring time with each other. It looks like our 5 finches came down. They had a nice bit of a swim in the puddle, and now they're just grooming themselves after having a little bit of a cool off in the pan. Female's not doing too much, so the male is on the right, a lot more brightly coloured than the female. Very pretty little wax bills. 2 little lovebirds. There is only a hammerkop or 2 hammerkop that we sometimes see at this waterhole. I do love the birding at Lentor. It's always rather exciting, and the nightlife here at this pan is incredible. There are some amazing photos that have been captured at this waterhole the last couple of years. Leopards drinking at night, caracal, striped hyena. We had one night where there was a genet that chased away an owl, so that was pretty cool. So lots of action and lots of activity happening. Oh, they're allo grooming. Look, the female is grooming the male. So Finn is asking a question about our finches. Finn is asking, why do finches flock in large noisy groups near water? Finn, so these finches are perfect prey size for a lot of medium-sized raptors. So they need to stay together as a group. That means that in larger numbers they have more safety. So it's very similar like with your Aquilia, for example. Aquilia naturally occur, your red-billed Aquilia occur in very large groups, and that does help to protect them from being eaten by predators. So same with these little finches. So that's why you'll often find red-billed finches or even your wax-bills. Ooh. Grenadiers maybe even. I wonder if we get grenadiers here. I saw something on the right that looked like a grenadier. All these little birds, they'll hang out in a mixed flock even when they come down to drink, so that there is safety in numbers. No, I don't think this is a grenadier. I think it's just another female red-billed wax-bill. So also this canopy of this acacia tree. So acacias are perfect places for wax-bills to nest, but also for them to sit up in like here, because it's going to be very difficult for a larger raptor to hunt these birds if they are in the protection of these thorny trees. And that's why you'll often see, for example, here at Lentori, there's I think it's a very strategically placed branch, a thorny branch on the one side of the pan. It might have just fallen down from this acacia tree, but I think it's a perfect little spot for these birds, because they'll often come down and land on thick vegetation or like that thick thorny branch before going down to the water. Yeah, because it does keep them safe. Just like I know some euphorbias are also perfect nesting spots for creatures like owls as well. Some waxbills will even nest very close to maybe wasps' nests as well, the extra form of protection for these birds. And so many predators out there. Alrighty folks, why don't we head across to Safari Hook and see what's happening in Namibia. Oh, look what we have here. So we've got some springbok here in Safari Hook over in Namibia, and some zebra have also come down to the waterhole. It looks like they have received a tiny bit of rain in Namibia. So I know Namibia does have a slightly different rain schedule or pattern compared to the rest of southern Africa. I mean, some parts of Namibia don't even receive 200 mils of rain a year. So the rainfall is very, very low in these areas. But it looks like they might have received, I would say, a few little scattered showers. That's helping this grass to grow. We had a question from Chris about our waxbills or our firefinches. Chris asked, what do their nests look like? So Chris, these firefinches and waxbills have very similar nests. They'll often make these very grassy balls. So it's not a very organized nest, unlike your weaver birds. They'll often nest in very thick, thorny branches or thorny areas, and it's just a little ball of grass. It's difficult to tell where the entrance and exit hole is, which is again a good form of protection for them when they're entering and exiting the nest. Normally it's at middle height, so it's kind of like your middle range part of the trees. It's not a very high nest, and just a very, I'd say probably palm size little collection of sticks, or mostly grass, that they use to construct their nests. The zebra and the springbok. Oh, there's also some wildebeest on the left. Seem to be really enjoying this lovely green grass that's come up. Imagine being in Namibia. My goodness, these animals are so well adapted to survive in these arid conditions. I mean, when I haven't been to Safari Hook, but when I was last in Etosha, you just think, what do these animals live off? There's barely anything green for as far as the eye can see. So it's amazing how these animals in Namibia are able to adapt. So here in Namibia, I guess they'll have to move very far distances in order to find food, compared to in southern Africa, like in South Africa, for example, during the dry season when there's not much food availability for these animals. Let's see if there's any other animals out there. So Safari Hook is a lovely area. So it's located within the Etosha Heights Private Reserve in Namibia. It does offer quite a high-end experience, game viewing experience within this remote area. They do have the big five: lion, leopard, elephant, rhino and buffalo. They do also have giraffe that roam through these areas, zebra, and of course quite a variety of other antelope. So a lot of very good bird species, korhans, that you can get here as well. You have excellent opportunities for spotting rhinos too. So they've got black and white rhino, and of course they have quite a diverse amount of birds, around 300 to 350 bird species that have been recorded in the area. This area does support the rhino conservation, so they are very good with protecting their rhinos within this area. So it's great that they work so hard to keep black and white rhino within these areas. So this area is about a 5-hour drive from Windhoek. It is accessible by air, so you can fly into a nearby airstrip if you're not wanting to drive through the country. Normally the best time to visit this area would be in the dry season from May to October. This is when lots of animals gather at the waterholes, which makes sightings a lot easier. And then the green season in Safari Hook areas in November to April. So the rains arrive sometimes a little bit later than southern Africa, and as I mentioned, their rainfall is very low. I think the last 3 to 4 years the average rainfall in Namibia hasn't been more than 200 mils as far as I understand. So it's very, very short rainfall, or very little rainfall. So Finn, yes, zebra can sleep standing up, and they do stand and rest while they're standing as well. It's just a great opportunity for these zebra to rest underneath a tree when they're you know, especially if you're in these areas where there's lions around, so they can sleep while standing. Alrighty folks, why don't we head across to Old Donyo and see what's happening there. Sorry folks, our Donyo feed is not doing so well today, so we have come back to Tembe Elephant Park with our very thirsty Thursday elephants that are having a very good and enjoyable mud bath. Look at these elephants. Oh, you can see a bit of dominance display here with these bulls. Oh, we got our floppy-eared elephant bull here on the left, on the right. His left ear is very floppy. Got one bull on the left here with a collar. Ooh, So you see why elephants need to have such thick skin on their rumps, just like with hippos. We saw a hippo out of the water earlier, and they've also got very thick skin on their rumps. And it's for instances like that, when you get stabbed in the backside by another elephant, you need to have thick skin to be able to protect yourself. Shame. Look at this elephant bull. So it does happen from time to time. He's obviously had his cartilage in his ear collapsing there. Could be from fights, could be from moving through thick vegetation. There's quite a few different ways elephants can damage or break the cartilage in their ears. So shame. This elephant will probably need to cool himself down quite a lot more than other elephant bulls. Alrighty folks, why don't we head across to Stony Point and check out some penguins. Look at this little penguin. Oh, we haven't seen penguins for quite a while, so always great to find some penguins here at Boulders Beach over in Cape Town, here in Stony Point. These penguins do prefer these coastal areas with quite nice sandy beaches as well as rocky outcrops for their nesting. Hey, little guy. They look so dapper, these penguins, I think. They always look like they are dressed for a ball, ready to go to a party. Very fancy party, like a fancy dress. So these penguins will normally be about 2 feet tall, and a fully grown male penguin can weigh anything between 2 to 4 kilograms. Very prominent with a black facial mask. Have a look at that little mask, and then the pink color around his eye. Oh, we have something special that's just arrived at Founders. Let's link across to Founders in the Eastern Cape. Wow, have a look what we have here, folks. We were just talking about the sable the other day. This is only my second or third time actually seeing sables at Founders Lodge, so great to see sable. My goodness, looks like a bunch of youngsters. Maybe the rest of the herd have already come down for a drink. There's also a zebra standing behind our rhino that is enjoying his little mud wallow. The Egyptian geese were photobombing us yesterday as well, so they're also coming to show their little faces. Hey guys, thank you for coming down to the waterhole. Great to have a brief sighting of some sable. My gosh, isn't that awesome? So they do form little herds, these sable, normally anything between 10 to 20 individuals, all in a herd. And as you can see, those sable were quite light in color, indicating most of them were probably females or juveniles. Wow. Maybe they'll come back. Alright, well, our sable have moved off, so let's head back across to our little penguin over at Stony Point in Cape Town. Oh wow, okay, so this penguin is actually right in front of its old nest. So this year, I can't remember, but it could have been, I think it was this year, they were actually nesting in this little hollow here. So have a look at this little spot. That is where the penguins nest. A perfect place for them to nest in these rocky areas, as we mentioned earlier. They like to occur in areas with nice rocky outcrops for nesting purposes. Oh my goodness, it was last year. It was January. I thought we were in December. My gosh. It's crazy how time flies so quickly. My goodness, I can't believe we are in 2026. Happy New Year, folks, by the way, if I haven't already said Happy New Year to some of our viewers. So we are, I've got a question here from Ava. Ava's asking, can penguins drink salt water? So Ava, yes, penguins do end up drinking quite a bit of salt water while they're fishing and hunting, although salt water can dehydrate these individuals, so they mustn't accidentally swallow too much salt water. And Noah also asked a question, why do African penguins have pink glands above their eyes? So yes, if you have a look closely, these penguins do have a slight little pink gland, so it's a specialized sweat gland just above their eye there, and this gland helps to cool them down in hot climates or hot temperatures. So it's almost for thermoregulatory purposes, and that pink patch actually acts, it's a bare piece of skin over the blood vessel. So when the penguin gets hot, blood flows to these glands and the heat irradiates away from the skin, helping them to lower their body temperature.
I'm Ralph, and I'm taking you to Sibuya Game Reserve, which is one of the only game reserves in southern Africa accessed only by boat. We'll stay at the luxury forest camp overlooking the Kariga River with an abundance of bird life and animals grazing on the opposite bank. Luxury tented suites set in a riverine forest offers the perfect place for privacy and comfort. Join me on Sibuya and let's experience it together.
Would you like to know what an elephant's favorite food is? You could ask me questions like that in real time. Our safaris are live and interactive from the heart of Africa. Over here. Watch Safari Live and connect with nature.
Look at this. Wow, that's amazing, everybody.
We'll see you there.
Oh, have a look at this. Wow, wow, wow.
I don't know where to look. This is too astounding for words.
Unreal. This is what they call a shambi, a family, a whole herd of elephants.
Nature is just everything.
We will be extending the show by a few minutes.
A fascinating animal that kind of draws people to it.
We'll see you out on the safari.
You can see his coat shining in the sun there. It's got these little flippy legs, specially designed little torpedo fishing machines. So if you want to visit Stony Point in Cape Town at the best time to see lots of little penguin chicks, the best time apparently to visit is between October to January, when most of the chicks are growing and being fed. So that's when there's lots of activity, lots of nest activity going on with these penguins. So I'm wondering, is this penguin going to show us where its nest is maybe? But if you want to go and see nest building behavior, you can also go in March to May. And while we're talking about travel, you can go and check out our Wild Earth travel website if you want to book your next adventure to Africa. We have a variety of different adventures waiting for you. Oh, penguin has disappeared. I was hoping he might lead us to where his new nesting site is, but we will keep an eye out. He's going. They're normally in pairs. Maybe we have some rock dussies somewhere close by. So Lira is asking, are African penguins the most northerly penguins to the South Pole? And yes, African penguins are definitely the most northerly penguin in the southern hemisphere. Let's see what we have. What else do we have? Maybe there's some cormorants. What else is out there? So Miss T has sent through a comment saying rhinos, hippos and warthogs. I swear the way they look similar, they could be siblings. So Miss T, yes, sometimes it can be quite confusing. If you see, depth perception sometimes can be confusing with these three species. Like if you see warthogs, rhinos and hippos very far away on a shoreline and there's nothing to tell size, you can get confused. I won't lie, I have once told a guest that there were 5 rhino on the shoreline, and I looked in my binoculars and there were actually just 5 warthogs. But the guest did not notice, so I kept quiet. Alright, let's head to Founders, folks. Wow, check out this sable male. So we saw the rest of the herd just now. They came through for a drink. And look at this impressive male. So we saw the juveniles and females earlier. So nice to see a very handsome male sable. So look at those horns of his, very curved backwards and perfect for protecting himself in case a lion jumps onto his back. So both male and female sable do have long horns, and that is to protect their calves. They are often preyed upon by lions. Perfect prey species for lions. Well, off he goes. Seems like he might have been left behind. Now he's following the rest of the herd. So I've seen some male sables that their horns are so long they can actually scratch their backs with the tips of their horns, or the horns actually arch down past their shoulder blades. Again, they constantly grow throughout their life. Very prominent colors of that pitch black with white. It's thought that the white colors on their face, it's almost like they've been painted, have face painting on their face to reflect the sunlight out of their eyes. And off he goes. What a handsome boy. Alrighty folks, well, we have had a great day today. So I just want to thank all of our viewers from myself and the Wild Earth team for joining us and for watching today. I will be with you tomorrow live at the Waterhole as well. Don't forget to tune into the Sunset Safari coming up later this afternoon. From me and the rest of the team, have a fabulous day, folks.